We may actually be getting a law to ban texting while you're driving. It appears we've talked about this before, and how many cases we're involved with representing people that are injured because the person that was driving the other vehicle was texting and not paying attention. We got one that ran through a double, a flashing light and a stop sign while he was texting, and our legislature has not had the I guess political courage previously to institute a statewide ban, but it looks like some of the people that were opposed to it have either left office or been defeated. It looks like it may pass, and I guess it's going to be a secondary offense, which is what seatbelts used to be. Remember, they used to not be able to stop you purely for failure to wear your seatbelt. They could stop if you stopped for speeding and you're not seatbelted, you'd be ticketed for it. So it's a secondary offense. That's changed now. Seatbelt usage is now a primary offense, but they're proposing that this anti-texting bill be a secondary offense, so that you'd have to be stopped for something else. I kind of wish they wouldn't. I wish they'd take the other step and make it a primary offense, because you see these people going down the highway all the time. They're not violating any other laws, but they're totally distracted. And I guess there's going to be a fine, $30 the first time, $60 the second, but no points on your license. So I don't know how much teeth it's going to have, but it's a good. It's a good first step, and that has not they have not passed it now, and
just in
discussion. But it appears like it's got some impetus. And then I want to talk. I know we got some calls. There was a great article in the paper about traffic hotspots here in Charlotte County. We talked about that before. The intersections that we see time and time, and I can testify to that. We'll talk about that in just a minute.
Good morning.
Great, that's a great point, and yeah, and that's and we've already got statutes on the book that prohibit careless driving. But as a practical matter, law enforcement is not utilizing the careless driving statute to to arrest and charge people that are using their phone or mobile device to text. So it's not working. I mean, your point is perfectly logical, but it's not. I don't know of any test case in which someone's been charged with careless driving for texting
or reckless endangerment.
And it creates. You can make that argument. You really
can.
But it gets a whole lot easier if you've got a specific statute on the books that says this is careless. We've decided that it's careless and that it's a danger to the citizens of our state, and so we're going to make it a secondary offense. And but your point is a good one.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, those are two different things. Able and willing are two very different things. They'd be able to. The question is whether they would be willing to, especially for a secondary offense. And if it's a second, so they can't just look over at the car next to them and see, even if this law were to pass. They look over, they see this 19-year-old texting, okay, and takes off from the light, and he or she is still texting, doesn't even pull their head up, and they start going. It's still a secondary offense. They have to be able to arrest them for something else. Now, the gentleman that just called made a good point. Well, maybe that's careless driving. You arrest them for careless driving, and then you on top of that, you cite them for texting while driving. But your point's a good one too. How do you prove? how do you? Yeah, right. What do you have to see? How do you prove it? They say I was just holding my cell phone in my lap, and I wasn't texting, or I was talking on the cell phone. I was talking on it, but I wasn't texting on it. It is going to be hard to enforce. I think the hope would be that if the statute is enacted, it would have enough of a chilling effect. There would be certainly some prosecutions. Some may be successful, some maybe not so much. But it might cause those that are texting while they're driving to say, I really don't want to run the risk here. I don't want to pay this this $60 fine. I don't want to get pulled over. And so I think it would have some effect on cutting down in texting, but there would certainly be legal challenges along the way. I would agree. I think it's a good first step. Again, I would make it a primary offense so that we eliminate that problem that, in part what we're talking about there. If you see it happening, you can issue the ticket. If they fight it, you better be able to prove, Mr. Police Officer, that they were actually texting at the time. Now, there are ways to obtain, the cell phone records to show what was going on at a particular time, and I'm assuming that that's where the state attorney's office would go with it as well.
If they never send it.
Well, if they never send it, then it never existed, so yeah. That's another good point, and I'm not sure that this consequence that's being proposed is severe enough.
No.
$30 for the first offense. There are a whole lot of people, young people in particular, that think they're invincible both physically and financially, that are going to run that risk. If you made it $150, then you start getting people's attention. $30, Dad, Mom, I need an extra $30 this week.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure that it is. So it's a first step at best. I think it'll have some chilling effect, but it won't get us where we need to go. And I can tell you, we've got to do something about this because the carnage that's being caused on our streets, particularly, I mean everywhere really, but and here as well. I mean, I see it every day because it's the type of work I do. We've got to do something to try to get this under control. Education hasn't worked, so what do we got to do? We've got to do something punitive to punish people. But you're right, a $30 fine. Oh man, that's sticking your toe in the water when you ought to stick your whole leg in,
Thank you for the call.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Right. I've got one. I've got
yeah, but you can't text. You can't text like that.
Yeah, but I mean, your point. I'm glad you brought that up because most modern vehicles have Bluetooth, and you can communicate as you would telephonically without having to hold a phone to your ear or in your lap or anything else. But interestingly, there have been studies done that show that situation, obviously designed for safety purposes, but that people are almost as equally distracted in that situation, talking, on the phone with their hands on the wheel, almost as equally distracted as if they were holding the phone in their hand. It helps not to have to hold the phone in the hand, but it doesn't solve the problem. You're doing two things at once. You're driving and you're talking, and your attention in either scenario is distracted. Certainly it's better to have your hands on the wheel. I would agree with you, but it doesn't. Right. Oh gosh, great. That's
Thank you, Bob.
Great.
Gotta go. We gotta take a break right now. We'll be right back with Cort.